Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, beautiful tri-state area. Welcome to our 102nd episode, 2 years on the air and going strong. It's always such a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly does make it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And also remember that we're now live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're on FinTech TV Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. And of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are now streaming 24/7 on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV. And of course, you can always find us on our YouTube channel at Zen Sams. We have such a great show lined up for you today. Very exciting stuff. In our Business and Buzz segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames, we're featuring the amazing David Santiago, an award-winning designer and owner of Casa Santi Interior Design. He's a guest designer on the NBC hit television series George to the Rescue. Today, he's here to chat all about his amazing career, interior design, and his latest plans. In our Culinary Wine segment brought to you by Navé Travel, today we're featuring celebrity Jamaican chef to the Buffalo Bills and social media influencer Darian Bryan, one of Western New York's hottest chefs, founder of the Plating Society. Today, he's here to chat food, career, and the global rise in vegan and plant-based eating. In our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to you by Animoca Brands, we're featuring iHeart's very own Ken Dashow from Q104.3. He's on air weekdays from 2 to 7 p.m. And he's here today to help me celebrate our 102nd episode, Rock and Roll Style, chatting about the history and evolution of rock and roll. In our Metropolitan Lifestyles segment brought to you by OGPay.com, we're featuring author and host of Ponder on It Pilgrims, Charles Hamm, a Texan to the bone veteran Marine Sergeant. He's here today to chat life, lessons, and wisdom. Stay tuned for David Santiago, award-winning designer and owner of Casa Santi Interior Designs. Also, he's a guest designer on NBC hit television series George to the Rescue. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to A Moment of Zen on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. Don't move a muscle.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OGPay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OGPay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out OGPay.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Business and Buzz segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames, we're featuring the amazing David Santiago, an award-winning designer and owner of Casa Santi Interior Design. His signature trademark, Strictly Santi brand, was created to be as diverse as his repertoire of talents. He is a guest designer on the NBC hit television series George to the Rescue and design and lifestyle correspondent for The Donna Drake Show on CBS's New York. He's the artistic director for My Face Celebrates, now myface.org, amazing company dedicated to transforming the lives of children and adults with facial differences. He's one busy man. Now, interior design is said to be the art and science of turning the interior of a building or home or any space really into a healthier and more elegant environment for the people who's going to be using it. Now, interior design is a major part wherein a customer would want to entirely redecorate a home or workspace to bring out the value of homes and other spaces. It is very much necessary to get along with the best interior design services. An accurate and well-decorated house can very easily show off one's taste, standards, and lifestyle. Now, the market indicates a growing trend of personalized and customized interior designing and has prompted interior designers to offer innovative designs which maximize space and ensure no wastage. It's all about sustainability. Today, David is here to chat all about his amazing career, interior design, and his latest plans. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you so much, superstar.
So happy that you're on. Okay, let's get to it. So, if all of your accomplishments in interior design were not enough, you're also an accomplished classical opera singer, an alumni of Maine's College of Music, and your debut concert at Carnegie Hall back in 2020, to my understanding, sold out. You've been on stages at Lincoln Center and performed with Teatro Grattacielo and New York City's opera, among others. How did you discover your talent and love for opera? Not a genre that most people find themselves falling into.
Great question, and thank you for starting with that. I was studying theater. I wanted to be an actor. I thought I wanted to be on television, and television led me to the stage, and I want to get formally trained. So I was studying at HB Studio in the Village here in New York, and the short story is I ended up doing a musical at a high school because my friend's sister told their music teacher that I was an actor and I wanted to be in their musical play called Calamity Jane. So I got cast as Wild Bill Hickok. After the show, she said, David, you should go study voice, study, professionally, classically, and get some musical education as well. And that quickly led me to fall in love with classical art songs and opera, early music. And the voice teacher that I was studying with encouraged me to audition for the program at Mannes Conservatory, which I did. And I ended up getting accepted. I got a scholarship.
Wow.
And the rest was history. I mean, truly, I immersed in the world of opera because I had an insatiable appetite, and my voice started changing, developing from musical theater to the classical sound that we need in opera. And that's the short version of how I ended up becoming an opera singer. And
Fascinating.
Yeah, and I got the bug.
And I love it. So now you're president at International Furnishing and Design Association, the New York chapter. How did you find your passion for interior design after pursuing an education in music?
So design came first. It became basically a trade and a job. I was working at Caldwell Corners selling fabrics and custom window treatments. And that truly was the beginning of my journey into interior design. When I started my own business, I wanted a connection with the design industry and the trades. And there's several organizations, and the IFDA was one of them that I took a leap of faith and joined. And shortly thereafter, got involved on committees and became a board member and grew right into the position of becoming the president. And it's an asset and vital tool to connecting and networking within the interior and home furnishings design industry.
So well calculated, my friend. So well calculated. Now, you're also the artistic director for MyFace, myface.org, dedicated to transforming lives of children and adults with facial differences. Talk to me about MyFace and why you got involved. What was the motivation behind that?
So I love this story because my design world and music world basically led me to this point. I have a client and the president of MyFace was talking to me about a talent show that the kids were doing for a fundraising event. And basically he said, David, you should check this talent show out that we're doing at MyFace. The kids are brilliant. They're good singers, instrumentalists. You love kids. My kids love you. You love music. You need to just listen and check it out. And I did, and I fell in love with the kids and I fell in love with the talent. And then I asked, how can I get involved? And soon thereafter, I became a mentor for the next MyFace Celebrates fundraising event. And truly, that's where I fell in love with the organization and what they do. Taking care of babies and newborns and watching them grow into young teenagers and kids, and through all these life-changing procedures that the organizations provides was a big, big milestone for me to getting involved. And now three events later, 2.5 years later, I am involved with the organization, and we're doing an event at the Edison Ballroom on March 15th coming up, celebrating all of these extraordinary talents and the organization.
Fabulous. So motivation. It's motivating and it's inspiring to see how committed and dedicated you are. And clearly you're a man with a lot of passion and and not just passion, but you're driven by, you look happy and you look comfortable and you look like you just want to help. And so I think that resonates. Now, what makes your brand Casa Santi Interior Design special, and how does it stand apart from others?
Well, I would start with the name in itself, just celebrating my Spanish cultural heritage, Casa Santi, House of Santi. But the journey of design also led me to realize that I had the challenge of taking someone that was insecure, inexperienced, and giving them a handheld leap of confidence to embrace the unexpected, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and going on a journey of what design is about and how spaces are defined and how they're utilized. That unique talent that I have to connect with people, and my insatiable appetite for design, and continuously always thinking forward and wanting to evolve, I think really sets me apart from, let's say, other designers, other industry colleagues. I take a leap of faith. I look at the task at hand, and I take them on a journey. And ultimately, what I do defines you, my client, the project at hand. My job is to make sense of it all through style, design.
Put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Exactly.
You're the visionary.
Form and function.
So important. And you have your work cut out for you. You have a lot of detail. You have an eye for detail is extremely important. And also blending different patterns and colors and understanding the spatial differences and really creating that depth and dimension. When you walk in, there's a theme. I love everything you do. I've looked at all your work. Now, you have a lot of stuff coming up this year. Aside from this fundraiser, any other big projects or performances we should know about?
Well, Teatro Gatticello is going to be doing a performance of Don Giovanni in June. You can check out their website. I believe it's like the third weekend in June. And also celebrating the Maria Callas 100th anniversary, which will be doing a production of La Vestale in the fall here in New York at Town Hall. So that's really a great celebratory moment for us at Teatro Gatticello. And also the Kaleidoscope Project, which is a dear project that I'm involved with, which celebrates the BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, people of color, and designers. We're doing a hotel in High Point, North Carolina this October, and that's bringing over 20 designers together, celebrating culture and design. Those are two big highlights that I'd like to give a shout out to.
I can't keep up with you.
There's one more.
Of course there is.
There's one more. There's an organization in Boca Raton called the Gray Team that is doing a fundraising event at the end of March. I believe it's March 30th. And I came to discover the Gray Team through an opera that I did in Palm Beach this past September that was about veterans and soldiers. And I mean, how serendipitous was that to be able to use my voice and to connect with veterans, veterans.
Oh, this warms my heart. I'm such an advocate for veterans, especially combat veterans. I'm a big advocate for an organization called heroesandhorses.org.
Yes.
I'll definitely turn you on to that. Now we have about 3 minutes left, and I want to talk about social activism, as if we haven't been talking about social activism
Right.
and advocacy, because clearly that's what you embody. Now you're a member of With It, encouraging and developing leadership, mentoring, education, and networking opportunities for professional women in the home and furnishing industry. And the fact that, we celebrate women every day, and the fact that you go out of your way to celebrate women, even when it's not Women's History Month, is important. Why is it so important for you to promote diversity in your field and empower women?
I would blame my mother. My mother was my rock. She was a foundation. She was an extraordinary human being and a force to be reckoned with, but a heart of gold. And boy, did she teach me how to love and lead with that. Women have always been a vital key component of my journey. In design, I was mentored by, I call my designing women and golden girls of design. And some of my best teachers through elementary onto college have always been women. The strength that women endure and have, and as business leaders and in interior design, they're a voice that you can't touch. You have to celebrate. So I have a lot of wonderful, talented human beings in my life that happen to be women, and With It celebrates them. And I chose to take a leap of faith and support an organization and women that celebrates them.
You're going to make me cry.
Well, you're an extraordinary woman. Look what you do, and look at all the hats that you wear. It's wonderful. Why not give them wind? Let them keep soaring. And, we're all better together.
Oh, amen to that. All right. Well, now that you touched, you emotionally evoked. Talk about HB Studios, right? And talk about you being able
Yes.
to bring that out in somebody. We're out of time, but I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on. You're such an inspiring human being. So thank you for being you.
Thank you, and thank you for being you, and the invitation to share our journeys, our stories, and celebrate. We need stories like this. We need people like you, and we need platforms like this to keep it going and keep the spirit of what we do, and hopefully smile more and more every day.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on. Guys, that was our Business and Buzz segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames. And that was the amazing, the incredible David Santiago, award winning designer and owner of Casa Santi Interior Design. You could head directly to their website at casasanti.com or tenordavidsantiago.com. You can also check them out on the gram at Somebody Gets Me Santi or Tenor Santi. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, this is Kathy Ireland here on A Moment of Zen, brought to you by Your Home TV. We've developed an all-inclusive subscription-free network that you're going to love, whether it's financial freedom, fashion, beauty, health and wellness, wonderful weddings, travel and culture, cooking, entertainment, and short-form documentaries, programming for everyone. Classic films and new shows, including Kathy Ireland Presents American Dreams. We've developed this network just for you. Please check out yourhometv.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Metropolitan Lifestyles segment brought to you by ogpay.com, we're featuring author and host of Ponder on It Pilgrims, Charles Hamm, a Texan to the bone veteran Marine Sergeant. Charles is well known on LinkedIn for sharing his thoughts about life and lessons learned from 75 years of navigating the twists, turns, and ups and downs of life. The release of Charles's book, Ponder on It Pilgrims, the bucolic Mark Twain on Critter Council's Cookie Bandits and Texas Grit, brought him the acclaim of becoming a 3-time international best-selling author. He and his wife, Kathy, are married for 54 years. They have 3 beautiful children and 7 grandchildren. They reside in Magnolia, Texas, where they are enjoying their golden years. Charles is all about words of wisdom, like advice from your granddad that you'd never forget. In fact, words by the 13th century poet Rumi often resonate with me. Yesterday, I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I am wise, so I am changing myself. The sooner you learn this, the better. And the sooner you accept it, the sooner you will want to learn how you can change. Now, I've learned that all the change I'm seeking in my life first begins with me. And all the change that you're seeking in your life first begins with you. Change the inside, and the outside falls into place. The truth is, you are capable of creating whatever you please. But what's standing in the way between where you are and where you want to be is actually you. Not time, not money, not circumstances, you. And do you know why? Well, it's because you are your greatest obstacle. Here to chat life, lessons, and wisdom is the amazing Charles Hamm. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you, Miss Sin. I feel like I could just sit and listen to you. What you said is excellent. It's an honor to be on your show.
Well, thank you for coming on. So let's chat about the title in your book. So, of course, when you look at the word bucolic, right, relating to the pleasant aspects of the countryside and country life,
Yes, ma'am.
please explain your paratitle, the bucolic Mark Twain on Critter Council's Cookie Bandits and Texas Grit. Talk to me about this title.
Well, folks started calling me Mark Twain on LinkedIn. I picked up several titles, and that was one of them. They started calling me the Sage of Round Mountain and the Round Mountain Ranger, and it's all funny. I have a place up in the country, and I grew up in the country, and so that's the bucolic part of it. Uh, Critter Councils has to do with this magical world that I created in the country on my place, Round Mountain. I started seeing all of the different animals up there, and I called them critters, and every imaginable kind. I mean, you have deer, and wild hogs, and bobcats, and coyotes, everything up there. And my imagination was such that I started thinking of, I started giving them names and personalities, just kind of personified them. And I became this old man that was living up in the woods with all of the critters. And we had I, we set up a government and in our own country, the Round Mountain uh, Critter Counts, the Republic of Round Mountain, and we had a Round Mountain Critter Council every Saturday morning, and a Round Mountain Critter Code of Conduct, and all of these
Talk
things.
about
And
passion. Talk
yeah,
about passion. So now I see how this title evolved. Now let's move on to what did serving in Vietnam teach you the most? I'd love to hear this.
well, I um, I was a young man back in those days, and my adult life really began in the Marine Corps. First, well, I can't say it was such a good paying job, but it was the first regular job I had. I worked through school, high school, but um, the Marine Corps taught me lessons that a lot of which I had learned from my father, uh, but I learned I learned about leadership, even from the drill instructors. As outrageous as they were, uh, I learned that if you're totally consistent and show no favoritism whatsoever, you can be rather grouchy, and yet everybody will respect your leadership. But uh, it's some of the lessons I learned were hard lessons. Uh, one thing I think that was impressed upon me was the randomness of life, and that regardless of where you are, uh, life life can be taken from you, and
Yes.
it,
Yes,
it,
amen
it
to that.
it's not you don't have to be in the Marine Corps to know that. I've seen it throughout my life, and uh, I developed. I think I came back with just uh, a feeling of having understanding the importance of life, and to I felt that I had a an obligation to some others. To I owed them a good life, and so I tried as I started my journey after the Marine Corps. I always felt like I owed some people a life.
You know, our
And
entire life, what you're saying is making a lot of sense because our entire life can change in an instant. So
oh
I
yes,
I always say instead of passively taking what you have for granted, be grateful for it and do whatever
oh
good you can with it because it could be taken in an instant. And my
yes,
next
yeah.
question to you is you are retired. The last thing I think you're looking for is to launch a TV show. What really motivated this and why did you choose to launch this on your home TV?
Well, I retired when I was 74, and I I have to admit, after working all my life, it was kind of nice to have not have something to do for a month or so. And then uh, I started writing on LinkedIn and giving my views on different subjects, and developed quite a following. And I ended up, when I wrote the book, that just seemed to launch me into a world that I had never imagined. Uh, a case in point is sitting here talking to you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
But Mr. Dominic called me one day or wrote me on LinkedIn and asked me if I'd be interested in a TV show. And I said, well, sir, I've never done anything like that before in my life. I've never even been on TV. And he said, well, we would like for you to do it. And I said, well, yes, sir, I will. What
So Dominic prompted you. Dominic is the cheerleader, you know.
he is the one that he's responsible, such as it is
Yeah.
for me having a TV
Okay,
show.
well,
Now.
that's a great answer. Well, I want to be mindful of the time. We have about 3.5 minutes left in the segment,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
and I just want to be able to get through
Yes,
more
ma'am.
questions because I want to hear from you. So I tell my listeners all the time, you know, if you want to change the trajectory of your life, it all begins with discipline, commitment, and of course, consistency. Practicing these is what gets you somewhere, and persistence is what keeps you going. Now, what do you when you look at your life in retrospect, right? People feel lost all the time, and the truth is that we don't owe anything to our younger self, but we owe everything to our present self. And that's
Yeah.
something that I've always, you know, told my daughter. But let's chat society and divisiveness. And in your opinion, what do you think is driving a wedge between Americans today? What do you think is at the core of our root issues?
Well, I have a saying, Texas grit saying, that wisdom will always be the first casualty of unrestrained behavior. And when you just look around, no one even talks about wisdom anymore. And it's a concept that I started pondering on, and all of what it really means. And we seem to be victims of our own lack of self-restraint and self-discipline. And wisdom cannot live in the mind of someone uh, like that. So I talk a lot about wisdom and what it means to be to be calm in the face of adversity, uh, to have control of your emotions, have control of what's in your heart, to take control of your actions and your words. Uh,
Yes,
yeah,
action. Action breeds more clarity than thought. So you can't think your way into a new life. You have to act your way into one. So what you're
yes,
saying is 100% true.
yes.
Yeah. So, okay, we have about a minute and a half left. Let's
Okay,
get to one last question
sure.
before this commercial break. So, we tend to break ourselves down little by little, day by day, but we also take care of ourselves and build ourselves up little by little, day by day. Why? Well, because our habits define us. What we do today is a direct reflection of who we will become tomorrow. And that thin line standing between where we are today and where we will be tomorrow, that hinge that connects the two, is that one small habit you repeat every single day. Logic has it, if you lean into bad habits or neglect the good ones, you're going to
Yeah.
break down little by little, day by day. But if you practice good habits, you're going to build yourself up little by little, day by day. Charles, what habit do you still practice after 75 years that has shaped and defined you?
If I had to pick one, I think that I to be focused I try to be focused and try to have something meaningful to do each day. That's why I work so long. Uh, when I woke up the first morning, I was retired for the first time in many years. There was nobody waiting on me to be somewhere or to do something. No one depended on me anymore, and uh, so uh, I guess it's a habit, but just a sense of living, continuing to live, and to have some motivation and something to excite me when I get up in the morning.
So passion and motivation. Yes,
and
that's
passion and just being motivated to be useful.
yeah. I always tell my kids, find anything you're good at, anything. I don't care
Hmm.
what it is, anything, and become really, really good at it. I want to
Yes,
see that passion burn. I want to see that live inside of you. Whether you're getting paid for it or not, just find that passion and then the rest
right,
will come. Well,
right.
listen, we've run out of time, but I wanted to thank you so much for coming on. You are so inspirational. I can't wait to tune in to Ponder on It Pilgrims, ponder.yourhometv.com. I love it.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a joy.
Thank you. That guys, you definitely have to check out Charles Ham. He's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, dear sir. That was our Metropolitan Lifestyles segment brought to you by ogpay.com. And that was the amazing Charles Ham, Texan to the bone, a veteran Marine Sergeant, book author, and host of Ponder on It Pilgrims. You could find Charles directly on his website at charlesham.com. That's ham with two M's. Or you could head to his channel at ponder.yourhometv.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this. Don't move a muscle.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcoming back to our Metropolitan Lifestyles segment brought to you by ogpay.com. We're chatting with the awesome Charles Ham. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good to be back.
All right, let's chat life, lessons, wisdom. Let's dive right back into this. So
Okay.
let's chat habits, right? So we finished talking about what habits. We talked about passion. We talked about consistency. We talked about what you do after 75 years that has still defined and shaped you, and all of that is good and great. Now, when we talk about advice and life lessons, I always say, and this is something that I pride myself upon, I say, share your progress, not your goals, and you'll always be motivated. Because
Hmm.
research has proven that the premature praise we receive from sharing our goals in public becomes a substitute for actually achieving them. That's why a lot of people talk about what they want to do, but never actually end up doing them. And that's why I learned to no longer announce my goals in public. Rather, I work silently behind the scenes and share my progress instead. When you track and share your progress, you keep yourself motivated. That tracking allows you to see your evolution unfolding before your eyes, and the sharing allows people to praise you not on your results, but on your process. What advice would you give to your younger self?
I think that the main thing that I would tell my younger self is things that I've only realized in the last 5 or 10 years, uh, and that is to develop the concept of wisdom and understand it and all of the ramifications of it, and it will uh, it will make life much easier for you. Uh, uh, Juxtaposed to being wise is being a fool, and I've done many foolish things through those years, and most of the lessons that I've learned somewhat the hard way. But the idea of what I came up with, the four golden questions: what would a wise person do? What would a wise person say? What would a wise person think? And what would a wise person feel? If you really ponder on those four questions and what it means, had I known that when I was a young man, my life would have uh, been easier, I think. But then again, if I hadn't have learned all of the lessons from being foolish, I wonder if I would have ever come to the realization that there was a better way to live. To that would be what I would tell myself when I was 19 or 20 years old.
I like that. I like it. I'm listening to everything you're saying. I'm just taking it in. Now, what do you feel is the biggest issue facing these younger generations, Charles, like Gen Alpha and Gen Z? To put it into context, most of Gen Alpha are children of millennials like myself, and I'm
Yes.
36. So what do you think is the biggest issues facing these younger generations?
I think that I've always insisted on my right to do my own thinking and to not allow someone to indoctrinate me where what I think is just what someone else thinks. And there seems to be uh, within young folks today a lack of critical thinking because people that are in positions above them that have great influence on them, it doesn't seem that they're teaching them to think. They're teaching them what to think. And so we have two different camps in our country, and we're divided along political and cultural lines. And I would come down on neither side because I think both are doing the same thing to us. They're trying to hold us in their camp and to have an influence on us that I refuse to give them. And so I would tell kids today to do your own thinking, and another one of my Texas grit sayings is if you think something doesn't make a lick of sense, you're probably right.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of our problems today, I could go on and on about the consequences of being indoctrinated. It can lead to unhappy results, and usually does, regardless of the form that it takes. It could be political, it could be religious, whatever. Do your own thinking and trust your own ability to understand and have your own views.
There you go.
That's what I'd tell them.
That's the bottom line. That's really what it comes down to. You don't want to be, the sheep. You want to be the shepherd. You don't want to follow the flock. You want to go where there's no path and leave a trail. You don't want to just listen because everybody's doing it and follow like everybody's doing it. To your point, understanding what's behind that, researching, drawing your own conclusions and your own inferences, but that comes with wisdom and society, at least the younger generation. I'm not going to say every youngster out there has this mentality, but many of them just follow the trend, right?
Yes.
And so critical thinking is so important, and that's been extracted. They don't go to school anymore to learn how to think on their own. They go to school, to your point, and this indoctrination that's happening across America it needs to stop. Well, we could go on and on. We have a lot to talk about, but we are out of time. So I will invite you on again, my dear friend. Thank you so much for coming on. Chatting with you was a pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a joy to be here.
That was our Metropolitan Lifestyles segment brought to you by OGPay.com. That was the incredible Charles Ham, Texan to the bone, a veteran Marine Sergeant, book author, and now host of Ponder on It Pilgrims. You can check out his show at ponder.yourhometv.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Animoca Brands. As a worldwide industry leader in digital entertainment, blockchain, and digital property rights, Animoca Brands plays a key role in the future growth of the open metaverse. During unstable times like these in burgeoning industries similar to blockchain, it's important to realize that blockchain can and will survive and eventually flourish, and industry-leading companies like Animoca Brands will guide the transformation into the future. Animoca Brands will keep building a better and fairer Web3 ecosystem, create impact for better, and bring true digital property rights to all internet users through NFTs and the open metaverse. For more information and to become part of the excitement, go to animocabrands.com. That's animocabrands.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes in our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to you by Animoca Brands, we're featuring iHeart's very own Ken Dashow from a Q104.3. He's on air weekdays 2 to 7 p.m. With Ken, it's a no politics fun zone filled with great music, free concert tickets, and live performances. Whether it's rocking the workday afternoon and drive home or breakfast with the Beatles on Sunday mornings, Ken sums it up in 3 words: long live rock. And with that, he's here today to help me celebrate our 102nd episode on WOR Rock and Roll Style, the genre responsible for Elvis, the Beatles, headbanging, leather pants, Stairway to Heaven, and a lot of smashed up hotel rooms. What started in the 1950s when black and white culture collided in the United States quickly boiled over and spread throughout the world. While there's still a little bit of debate among rock and roll scholars as to who exactly kicked the whole thing off, there's no denying that the 1950s were where it all began. Welcoming now to the show is the amazing Ken Dashow. Welcome, superstar.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you, Zen. It's great to be on the show. And, being a Q, we're all the iHeart family, WOR, right down the hall, and love you guys. When we had sports, I would come over after my show and talk sports on the air. So, it's one family. It really is. It's great to see you. You look great.
Thank you. So excited to chat with you. So thank you for being here today.
Sure.
Now, let's dive right in. So Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Bill Haley, and of course, Elvis Presley became the giants of the 50s, each carving out different avenues for future rock and rollers to walk down. Who is your favorite all-time rock and roller or rock band? And how has rock and roll evolved over the years in your point of view?
It's something I've always imagined. I didn't read it, and if you don't agree with me, that's fine. But the folks you mentioned, Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, Little Richard, Elvis, Bo Diddley, all those guys, they built the foundation of the house that is rock and roll music. Before that, it was always like beautiful music. It was just a new generation of people singing older music. But that was rhythm and blues. That was rock and roll. And that's what made it so dangerous, is they were playing quote unquote black music, but they were white people. So white kids were dancing to black music. And you can't have that in England or here. That was terrifying. And then, well, it'll pass. It'll pass. But then Elvis took it to that next level. And Elvis became the biggest star there was in music. And he's still singing black music. Now,
imagine that.
I mean, and that was it. Alan Freed. That's why they had to stop rock and roll. So that's the foundation. And then along come the Beatles, and they do it in England. And Elvis is in this beautiful, gorgeous pink Cadillac with big fenders and gorgeous. And the Beatles come along in a rocket ship. Go, thanks, Elvis. We learned everything from you.
And stole it right off. And that's my next question. So during the 50s, Britain was perfectly placed to be the biggest consumer of rock and roll outside of the USA. And then came along, like you said, Cliff Richard, the first unique British rocker who set the scene for the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, both of whom would dominate the 1960s. And later that decade, Beatlemania, poof, swept the world, and Britain was the biggest exporter of rock and roll. Why are the Beatles still so popular after all these years, Ken?
I love that question, and I've probably been asked it 1,000 times, and I love it because it's the answer of what it is. Every generation loves their own music that you grew up on, and then that's your parents' music, and you move on. Why 50 years on are the Beatles still important? Because of the message. If the Beatles stayed in 1964, She Loves You, Yeah, 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 that was an explosion. That was Beatlemania. They were the first band to ever evolve. If you think about it, Elvis was always Elvis. A country act is a country act. The Beatles were the first one they did Beatlemania Mop Tops for 2 years, threw that away, stopped touring, and then they start becoming more psychedelic. And they and Bob Dylan are the foundations of the house that everything is built on. Bob Dylan met the Beatles and said, okay, you've got the world's attention. Now say something.
Yes.
And that
So
might have
true.
and listen, I believe that would have happened anyway, but when Bob Dylan dragged folk music into rock and roll, kicking and screaming, he was the first folkie to go electric, and it blew everybody's minds. And the Beatles, instead of singing "She Loves You," the "Yeah, yeah, yeah," they write Eleanor Rigby. They
Yeah.
write Yesterday. They write Tomorrow Never Knows, Turn Off Your Mind and Float Downstream, and it
Yeah.
changes the world. And to this day, that feeling of alienation, not just, "Oh, I love you, girl, I wanna be with you." That sense of what's life about? How do I fit in? And then the message of hope, all you need is love. We
Oh,
get we get by with a little help from our friends as the world's being torn apart politically and with bombs in the Ukraine. The answer, all you need is love. We get by with a little help from our friends.
and here comes the sun.
Here comes the sun. It's getting better all the time. To
Yeah.
believe in that when you're lost, or you feel hopeless, or you're a teenager, or you're 60 years old, it's a message of hope. It's a friendship.
Ah,
The there are so many people. I've learned so much from other musicians and rockers about what they meant, what they were taught by the Beatles. And everyone said there's a musician, Randy Bachman. He was American Woman from the Guess Who, and then BTO, Taking Care of Business. And he
yeah.
said, I always get asked, did you ever have formal musical training? And he says, yes, I listened to the Beatles.
There you go. And the 70s saw the rise of disco, punk rock, and glam rock as the horizon of rock and roll expanded further and further into this new territory. And rock and roll was turning bands into gods who started flying in private jets on world tours, playing to arenas of adoring fans. I mean, Led Zeppelin, Fleetwood Mac, Kiss, Elton John, ABBA, and the Bee Gees were just some of the biggest groups of the decade, each shaping new sounds and styles for audiences around the world. And they were all very unique in their own way. But by the 1980s, rock and roll was entering its midlife crisis. And in my opinion, the genre was really unrecognizable from its early roots. Commercially speaking, rock and roll was in decline. I mean, Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, Queen, and Prince each became giants in the rock and roll world, taking the throne from the bands that had come before. Why do you feel that during the 1980s, rock and roll became best friends with sex and drugs?
Well, it always was. I mean, that's rock and roll was always about sex, drugs, and rock and roll because that was the danger of it. Alan Freed, the first rock and roll disc jockey who did dance parties. He had
Yep.
touring rock shows. And the reason that, J. Edgar Hoover of the FBI set out on a mission to destroy him is for one reason and one reason only. Black kids and white kids were dancing. They
Yeah.
weren't fighting, they were dancing together, and we can't have that. And then the same thing was happening in England. As you said, rock and roll was the biggest export that England had in the 60s, 70s, and the government did everything they could to stop it. As opposed to encouraging it, they tried you had to go on a ship, pirate radio. If we were rock DJs
Yeah.
in England in the 60s, we'd have to be on a ship 20 miles offshore in order to play these records, right?
Crazy.
Because the BBC would not allow this filth, this dangerous satanic sound.
Yep.
And, and that became so there's Black Sabbath with dark metal imagery. And then there's beautiful synth pop that came in the 80s, Eurythmics and, Human League and things like that. What I've always felt is that rock and roll has the biggest tent on the music fairground. There's rock, there's Guns N' Roses, there's Patti Smith, there's Bob Dylan, there's the Beatles, there's Ozzy Osbourne. Come on in, the beer's cold, there's plenty of chairs. You'll find where you want to sit and you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. And by the 1990s, rock and roll was fading out of the mainstream as hip hop and R&B dominated commercial radio and MTV. More artists experimented with new techniques and technology. Enter grunge. What started as an underground sound in Seattle spread like wildflower through the United States and across the world as bands like Pearl Jam and Nirvana dominated the airwaves. In contrast to this heavily distorted sound, bands like REM, Beck, Oasis, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers also made a name for themselves by incorporating new styles and sounds. I mean, rock and roll wasn't dead, but it sure was different. So, what really changed, in your opinion?
Well, if you think of how things evolve and every musical movement is a reaction to what came before it. So, as you said, in the 70s, rock and roll bands of Foreigner and the Eagles or Private Planes and going big and making a fortune. So the reaction to that is mid to late 70s punk rock of the Ramones and playing in little clubs again, getting back to being dirty and loud and simple like the Beatles were in the early days. And then we get disco and we get a whole different era. And out of that comes the Euro rock pop that we talked about of synthesizers in the 80s. Then the reaction to that, as you said, Guns N' Roses come, we get back to guitars. And then the rebirth of it all happens with grunge, with people singing about their pain from their heart and soul. A lot of the bands are terrific, but Pearl Jam and Nirvana were heads and shoulders above everyone else,
Above everyone else.
singing about being disaffectation. How do we fit into this world? Because I don't understand it and I don't see where I fit. And if there's a 17-year-old anywhere in the world who isn't asking themselves that question, when you hear that in any era, you go, oh, wow, I'm not alone. Because no matter how much I pretend to be part of the group, I feel like a dork. I feel like a dork asking a girl for a date. I feel like a dork around my parents.
Yeah.
I try to do whatever the crowd is doing to feel like I belong, but I feel like I really don't belong. And just like the Beatles to the Who singing about it to grunge, like that music will always live on. And that's the magic of rock and roll. It wasn't a fad. It goes up in popularity, it goes down, but the heartbeat of it,
it's always there. Yeah. And rock and rollers, well, you're right. And when you look at it in retrospect, rock and rollers who came before, currently, they say we don't recognize our modern day contemporaries who sound wildly different to the classic rock and roll sound, right? And for audiences, rock and roll was basically anything with a guitar. And while there was the occasional, charting rock and roll song, the genre in general had fallen further from its mainstream glory that it enjoyed decades earlier. And to cut to where we are today, I mean, you have old school rockers that are now grandparents. They've released new work, most notably Bruce Springsteen and Elvis Costello. But for the next generation, they're safely in the hands of Youngblood and Machine Gun Kelly, just to name a few. Where does rock and roll go from here?
You know what? I've been asked that so many times, and the answer is I have no idea, none whatsoever. The only thing that I wonder about is what is it exactly that it's going to be? I always look forward to the next iteration of it. Right now, pop music is back to where it was in the 50s. And that sounds like I'm putting the artist down, but I'm not at all. You have a sound, you have a look, and you just do that. And there are exceptions, of course. I'm not pigeonholing anybody, but for the most part, I hear everything sounding very, very similar. And I ask the audience, if you don't see the performer with all the auto tuning, with the music being made by a computer and auto tuning of the voices, if you didn't see the artist, can you be sure which female pop singer you're actually listening to?
Exactly.
Because the differences are so similar, because it's all done by the idea is not to sound unique. The idea is to sound the same because it's a similar sound that's wanted. And hopefully the pendulum swings back again from that, and we have something that's unique and something that sounds different that people grab onto, because you get bored with this and you find something else.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend. That was so enlightening chatting with you. I mean, I feel like we packed a lot in there.
We sure did. And if I can put in a plug, thank you for mentioning afternoons, but Sunday morning when we do Breakfast with the Beatles on the air, Q104.3, and over the, on the iHeart radio app, we have about 30% of our listeners are under 18. And that's my favorite part of the world, is that new listeners are finding this. A 12-year-old girl said, Ken, could you play George Harrison? He's so sexy.
I thought that.
He is sexy. His body may be gone. He's physically gone. But what he left in this world, this handsome, beautiful man in these spiritual songs, beware of darkness, and here comes the sun, something in the way she moves, that'll always be sexy. That lives forever.
It does. Well, thank you so much, Ken. You're amazing.
Oh, you are too. It's a joy to call you my friend.
Oh, you're so sweet. Guys, you definitely have to check out the amazing Ken Dashow, Q104.3 afternoon drive host. And of course, Sunday morning breakfast with the Beatles. You definitely don't want to miss him there. That was our entertainment and pop culture segment. Now, where rock and roll goes next is anyone's guess, like Ken said. Some argue the genre died decades ago, while others are certain it's still very much alive and well. Now, one thing is for sure, that rock and roll has given us too many gifts to count and shaped our culture in more ways than we can imagine. So for that, we say thank you to the rockers, others that came before. That was our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to you by Animoca Brands. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Navé, a members-only travel portal exclusively available through Organo, offering members steep discounts on nightly or weekly hotel stays, cruises, auto rentals, excursions, and so much more. With its travel getaway portal, Navé makes the days of surfing multiple travel sites and spending hours evaluating the best deals done with. That's because with Navé, you are guaranteed the best prices. Plus, to gain access to an even more expansive collection of condos, hotels, cruises, vacation villas, fantasy getaways, and concierge service, there's Forever Weeks. Simply purchase a Navé Forever Weeks package one time and enjoy the benefits many times. With Forever Weeks, forever means forever. Not only does Navé guarantee you the best prices, but it is also one of the few travel portals that pays a referral bonus, in addition to you earning rewards points, which can be redeemed on the Travel Getaway portal for further discounted hotel room rates. Become a member today and navigate the world of travel. Navé, the world for you to experience. For more information, go to nave.travel. That's Navé, Nave.travel.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes, we have our Culinary and Wine segment brought to you by Navé Travel. And today we're featuring celebrity chef and influencer Darian Bryan, one of Western New York's hottest chefs. Now, you may have seen Chef Darian, founder of the Plating Society, on Food Network's Chopped last year. He's a Jamaican chef who basically brought the heat to Buffalo, New York, and no pun intended there. He arrived in the States in 2012 and has quickly rose to the spotlight through his pop-up fine dining dinners in surprising and unusual locations. He is known for his private dinners and meal prep for Buffalo's favorite NFL players. He specializes in everything extra, from his signature fedora hats and chef jacket styles to his colossal surf and turf. He believes that chefs are rock stars and should be celebrated as such. Their food makes people happy, and according to Chef Darian, they should feel and see that love too, and I agree. He loves to merge Caribbean cuisine with his fine dining dishes, hence his nickname, the Fancy Jerk. Darian is the personal chef for Buffalo Bills stars like Stefan Diggs and has gone viral multiple times for the wild meals he prepares before game day. Today, he's here to chat food, career, and the global rise in vegan and plant-based eating. Now, outside of countries and cultures where abstaining from animal products was part of spiritual or moral beliefs, diets that limited or excluded meat, dairy products, and eggs have often been seen as fads, especially in the US and many European countries. Plus, meat-free options used to be quite difficult to find outside of certain stores. And even then, they weren't always that appetizing. But now, all of that seems to be changing, and quickly, in a big way. The global rise in plant-based foods has arrived. Here to chat food, career, and why he believes that the global rise in vegan and plant-based eating is no fad is the amazing Chef Darian Bryan. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel very special.
I love what you do. I love your social media page. That's how I found you. I hope you don't think I'm a stalker.
Yeah, well, I was wondering how you find me. Well, okay, that makes sense now.
I'm a millennial, social media, of course. Now let's jump right into it. So this headliner about veganism on the rise, we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to circle back to your amazing career. So even as little as less than a decade ago, those identifying as vegetarian, vegan, or plant-based were often viewed as weird or extreme, more the domain of hippies and activists, so to speak, rather than large numbers of everyday people. And many headlines made veganism sound like a surefire way to become nutrient deficient, even using fear tactics to prevent parents from raising their kids on plant foods. Where does a plant-based lifestyle stand today, and can you still balance out the flavors and nutrients just as effectively?
Oh yeah, so you can always like substitute. For example, you can get protein from nuts and all of those. You don't really need to eat meat to get protein. People think that you need to eat meat there's so much other ways to get protein, like quinoa. 'Cause most of my clients, for example, the football players that I prep for, some of them is vegan, and it's hard to cook for those guys sometimes because you have to cook so much to make a complete dish, and it can be challenging, but it works for them. They perform better. Like they say they don't feel sluggish anymore. They wake up on time. It's just like better for their health. So it's whatever diet works best for you. Because sometimes people's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm gonna be vegan." I'm like, why you gonna be vegan though? Does that work for your body and your health? Just because it sounds good, you're gonna do it. You got to work for you. You got to find out what worked for you best and just do it.
Yeah, that's very true. And if you look at the stats in 2020, this is, of course, a couple of years ago, plant-based dairy and meat sales were over $29 billion and were projected to increase to $162 billion by the year 2030. This means that plant-based meat and dairy alternatives are already making up nearly 8% of the so-called global protein foods market. And according to the Bloomberg Intelligence report, plant-based food sales are expected to increase fivefold by the year 2030. In fact, many people have observed that millennials, like myself, seem to be the central drivers of this worldwide shift away from consuming animal products and normalizing plant-based eating. And of course, this is leading consumer demand. But the plant-based movement is bigger than any one generation, I always say. And to your point, everyone from celebrities to athletes to entire companies, including Google, and countries as big as China are supporting the movement to eat more plant-based foods. You just answered the question. You have pro athletes that are vegans and plant-based vegetarians. Did you ever think that these big guys that are out there playing pro sports, I mean, that's a lot of calories that they have to expend, right? Would be doing this based on vegan and vegetarian diet. I don't understand how.
No, yeah. When a few of them like tell me I eat plant based, I'm like I'm vegan. I'm like, hey, vegan? Okay, let's see what we can do. But I still have to make it fun and exciting for them too, because you still gotta bring like give them stuff that remind them of meat, but it's not meat. It's still delicious and healthy for them. So it's kind of challenging, but it works in the hand. And I'm a guy like this. Like I'll give you whatever you want, because I'm a people pleaser. That's what I do.
I love it. You are a people pleaser. I can see you take such pride and passion in your dishes and serving people. Now let's shift the focus to you. So, personal chef, redefining the catering experience with the Plating Society. Talk to me about how you got started and ended up on the Food Network's Chopped.
So I got started from back in Jamaica. My mom used to have a cook shop. I used to help her all the time in the cook shop. And that's where the love developed for cooking. I came here 10 years ago from Jamaica, and I'm like, I want to be a chef. Went to ECC downtown for culinary arts. My first job was at Denny's in Delaware, right? I never seen American food before. I never seen pancake, no bacon, no mucho Miami. I never seen those stuff. We don't have those in Jamaica, you know what I mean? So I'm like, Denny's teach me so much. And then we work at some for restaurants around town, like Hutch's, finest restaurant in Buffalo. Then I'm like, I want to do my own thing. So I started pop-up restaurants. So I start doing all these random pop-ups in the most crazy areas, like yoga studio and farms, like anywhere I could seat people, I would just sit them down and cook like a 6-course fine dining menu for them. That's crazy.
Yeah, talk about doing something different. And when you look at, you're in a very specific market, because over the next 10 years, it's expected that the US is going to need about 9,500 personal chefs. That number is based on 1,300 additional personal chefs and the retirement of 8,000 existing personal chefs. So small but niche market that you seem to have total control over in Western New York. So I take my hat off to you. Now, you obviously said that your mom is your inspiration, heritage, Jamaican roots, all of this. She had a cook shop back in Jamaica. That's where it all started for you. Talk to me about mom. Talk to me about what inspired you in the kitchen to want to do this professionally.
It's just food and the way food make people happy. You know what I mean? Like food bring people together. Food is love. That's all we know. My mom got 6 of us. I'm the only boy, 5 girls.
That says a lot.
You feel my pain, right?
I feel your pain.
Something else, man. But it's all love, though. You know what I mean? And that's what brings us together. Food. I'm like, if I be a chef, I'm always gonna have a job because people have to eat.
True.
No matter who you are, you have to eat. Always gonna have a job. and I just love the beauty of food.
And you do it in such a sexy way.
You got it, man. You got to keep it sexy, whatever you do.
Yeah.
Dress good, look good, cook good, all of it.
Yeah, because listen, look, the context in which to view the private chef industry in my opinion, it's like that of the gig economy. So instead of renting a house or catching a ride, one is renting an experience with a
Yeah.
private chef. That's what you do, and so you're very much in demand. It's not just your cooking; it's you. You
Yeah.
are the rock star of their night. Would you
Mhm.
call yourself an entertainer?
That's what they call me because sometimes when people reach out to me and I'm booked, I have another chef I could send you over. They're like, we need you though. I'm like, well, I would send my food, but they're like, it's not you though. I'm like, I guess they need me because I sing, I dance, I do it all, man. I'm an entertainer. I always tell people, I don't sell food, I sell experiences.
Yeah, you do. You totally sell the
Give me
experience.
I
Okay,
come to the swag and fedora, the custom jacket, all of that stuff.
you're vibing. You're vibing. All right, let's do a little trivia. All right. I'm going to ask you the questions now, single answers. Okay. There's about like 5, 6 questions. I want to get to know your taste. So, what is your favorite cuisine to consume, not cook?
Um, I like, can I do like two answers?
Yeah.
Okay. I like Indian food a lot and Asian. So
Ah,
Indian,
okay. Okay. What's your favorite to cook?
I would say French cuisine.
Ooh,
Yeah,
didn't expect that.
master like Jamaican cuisine, so I have that there, but French cuisine is like my thing.
Yeah. Okay. Most challenging dish you've ever had to make?
Most challenge Bernaise sauce. That's the most challenging thing. It's like a French sauce, it always break, what I mean? Like everything gotta be the right temperature. Bernaise was the most challenging for me. I'm mastering now though.
I love it. Okay. Most popular dish of yours that people request?
Oh man, Rasta pasta.
Rasta pasta. Okay.
Love the Rasta pasta. And also I do that a cranberry pistachio crusty rack of lamb people like go crazy
Ooh,
for. I make a
ooh,
mean oxtail too.
ooh, all of this sounds so good. I just want you to cook for me. Okay. The most viral dish.
A surf and turf, like colossal lobster tail and tomahawk steak. Like people go crazy when they see that. That's what I feed the football players. I got a TikTok. I don't do much on it, but you can go over there and see the video of it. Like this thing is like 2 pound lobster, like this big, tomahawk steak. People just go crazy for it. They're like, I tell them like, if you finish that, you get the entire dinner for free. Nobody ever finishes.
No one ever finishes it. Not even
Nope,
the football players?
nope, nope.
Oh, wow. Now, if you could be anything but a chef, what would you be?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably a motivational speaker.
Oh, that's such a good answer. I
Yeah, I
thought
like.
you were going to say actor or something, but yeah, I could see you being a motivational
I like
speaker.
act, but that's what I do every day though. Like acting, being a chef. So it's like it's right there too. But I
Yeah.
like to motivate people, because where I'm coming from in Jamaica, I come from nothing to where I'm at right now. I'm like, when I encourage people, like, you can do it too, man.
Yeah. Okay. And that was my next question. What advice do you have to your younger self and to anybody out there wanting to pursue, being a chef, culinary?
It's a lot of work, so you gotta love it. Don't come in this industry thinking you're gonna make a lot of money and be famous. You gotta put in the work, night and day, every day. You gotta love it and just like have a vision. This was my vision to be where I'm at right now.
Talk about the law of manifestation, huh? I mean, think about that. You put it out there. You
Mhm.
came here with a dream and a vision. You said you wanted to get on Chopped. You got on Chopped. You said you wanted to do this
I did
celebrity.
supermarket stakeout too. I won that one too. Supermarket stakeout, Food
uh,
Network.
That's what I'm saying. Like you are just killing it. But this is all manifestation. Put it out there into the universe. Put in the hard work. Put in the effort, and anything is possible.
You know
I
what's
say,
crazy? Sorry, don't mean to cut you.
no, not at
But
all.
I write down all my goals, like all of them, and I just watch them. I just that big smile on my face when I cross it off the list. I'm like, did that, because once you see it, you can achieve it.
Yeah.
You can just wake up and just hope stuff happen. You gotta have something you're working towards every day.
There you go. Well, we are out of time. Thank you so much for coming on. You were so inspirational. I loved chatting with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Hope to see you soon.
Yeah. Oh, you will. You definitely will see me soon. Guys, that was our culinary and wine segment brought to you by Navé Travel. That was the amazing celebrity chef and influencer, Darian Bryan, Western New York's hottest chef. Definitely check him out, founder of the Plating Society. You could head to the gram and check him out at Chef Darian Bryan on Twitter, Darian Chef. And you could head directly to their website at theplatingsociety.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Navé, a members-only travel portal exclusively available through Organo, offering members steep discounts on nightly or weekly hotel stays, cruises, auto rentals, excursions, and so much more. With its travel getaway portal, Navé makes the days of surfing multiple travel sites and spending hours evaluating the best deals done with. That's because with Navé, you are guaranteed the best prices. Plus, to gain access to an even more expansive collection of condos, hotels, cruises, vacation villas, fantasy getaways, and concierge service, there's Forever Weeks. Simply purchase a Navé Forever Weeks package one time and enjoy the benefits many times. With Forever Weeks, forever means forever. Not only does Navé guarantee you the best prices, but it is also one of the few travel portals that pays a referral bonus, in addition to you earning rewards points, which can be redeemed on the Travel Getaway portal for further discounted hotel room rates. Become a member today and navigate the world of travel. Navé, the world for you to experience. For more information, go to nave.travel. That's Navé, Nave.travel.
That's a wrap, my dear friends. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you could head to 710wr.iheart.com/A Moment of Zen. Also remember that we're now live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern, and of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are now available on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV streaming platform. You could head to mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it.